All right, and welcome back to the Breadcrumbs Project and our look um, on the story of Latin America, on the history of Latin America. It is it's something that everybody takes for granted, and everybody just assumes that they mean Latin America because Spanish is a Latin language, which couldn't be anywhere further from the truth. And we're going to be exploring some of those uh, some of those words. Latin is nothing like Spanish, and Italian is not Latin. One of the biggest assumptions folks make out there is that Italian is Latin, and it's not. So there's going to be a lot going on. So welcome to uh, the Breadcrumbs Project and our discussions on Latin America, and it has so much to do with our current environment. It has so much to do with um, our current ways that we're experiencing, that we're seeing. I'm sorry, I'm doing a little bit of typing in the background and fixing some things, but the history that we are going to be exploring, starting with Celtic rituals, and then we're going to be uh, easy on over into Latin rituals and kind of uh, merging the two and getting them uh, to uh, to have a steady line where you can see what has happened and where things are in the world today. So as I make, yeah, we can stick with this as I move along in our storylines. So one of the things that we were looking at yesterday were pottery shards, and I told you the story, and this is the main guy that got me with the idea of oh my gosh, these are Celtic ritual burial urns. Okay, they have a key classic signature, and that is that the glazing on the inside is perfect because it was never exposed to the weather, and the glazing on the outside is weather worn. I'm going to sneeze. I'm sorry. Hang on one second. So, yes, sorry about the sneeze. It's winter here in Spain right now, and we are in December, the 2nd of December. So it's definitely chilly. So this is the pottery shard that that started everything. And you can see how far in the dirt, let me get this straight right there, how far in the dirt this was buried by where the glazing is. So this tells us something very important, that the Celtic ritual of burying their dead was done um, using a process of inversion. And so let me go back over here where I can show you two pots and their inversions. So these are two pots. They weren't buried originally. I feel very strongly that they were not buried originally. That over time, as you do in Britain, you have to go about a foot or a foot and a half worth of dirt to get to the past, because uh, that's just the way archaeology is. So I'm going to assume that these were not buried originally. They were like this one, and then in basically a 9 foot by 9 foot area is where I pulled all these pottery shards with the oh, thank you, Kim. And yeah, so this is amazing because it's white, and this is rare. and the glazing has to do with metals. So there was iron ore in this glazing, and then white, and it's ridged, um, kind of like a porcelain, but it's definitely old because of the inclusions. This, for reference, is a modern piece of ceramics. Okay, white on both sides, and I actually found this along with my other pottery shards. So there was um, regular, yeah. This is definitely porcelain, a type of porcelain. So this is modern porcelain, no inclusions, nice soft powder, and then perfectly glazed on both sides. So these are Celtic. You can tell by the green, and then again on the outside. And I think the green has to do with the village that produces it. They probably have their own standard colors that are recognized. And then this one, again, perfectly clean on the other side. And it has these beautiful ridges that were done by rope. So this was these are all ritual. You can definitely say that these are all ritual urns. And then I have two that are made of glass. This one was by the beach, and it has writing on it. It looks like an RO. And then this is a one that we found in the field, and it has the same classic signature, smooth on the inside and rough on the outside, weather worn. And if you say, "Oh, it has lettering," it must be modern. Well, no, because this is. Oh, thank you, Cipollino. This is um, this is glass with inclusions. All right, this is glass with inclusions, and it also has a lot of tiny bubbles. So this is hand blown glass. The Phoenicians had it, the Romans had it, and it could be said that maybe the Minoans had it. So glass had been around for quite a long time, and you can say it's a rim. And the point I was trying to make about the lettering is on the inside, not the outside of this funerary urn. And I know it's a funerary urn because it has the same signature: rough on the outside, smooth on the inside. It's something you have to feel. This one is a perfect, perfect representation. Okay, glazing on the inside, glazing on the bottom of the urn, and then on the outside, completely weather worn. So this is the profile. This is actually the profile of the urn. Okay, this is the top, which was face down, and this is the um, the outside, and this is the inside. And you can tell by the curvature that to be true. So, where did all of this come from? This came from a garden plot in the very unique city I live in, which is called Mushia. And Mushia is very special because it has history with the Camino de Santiago. And I am pulling up Mushia right now on Google Maps so you can get an idea of where we are and why this is so significant. So here we are in Spain. Okay, this is Portugal over here, and as I zoom in, I don't know why my Google's is locked. All right, here we are. This is Spain, and Portugal over here. A Coruña up here, Very important to the story we're going to tell. Okay, A Coruña, Santiago de Compostela. The Camino de Santiago starts up here in southern France, crosses the border, and people walk for up to 30 to 60, some 90 days to do the Camino de Santiago. But usually, if they start from the beginning, it's roughly 30 to 40 days. And they're walking every day, and it's a very special spiritual pilgrimage. Uh, Currently, the most famous pilgrimage in the world, and there are people from all over the world that come to this place. So as I zoom into Santiago de Compostela, we're going to see Finisterra here, Finisterra, and then above it is where I live, Muxia. And I am a network administrator, a Cisco network administrator, Microsoft professional. Been in IT for since I was 16 years old. I was working on punch cards. I was so great. I was into computers before the PC, before the Apple, before any of that. I was working on mainframes with punch cards. So I've been in IT all my life, but my passion, my undying passion, is archaeology. I love history. I love archaeology. But I love archaeology more than I love history because things can tell a story. History can tell a lie. And you can quote me on that. So I'm going to show you exactly where I found these pottery shards. And as you look here, these are small little, what we call huertas in Spain. And huertas are gardens. And so in this, actually in this area right here is where I was pulling up my potatoes 3 years ago, 2 years ago, sorry, and discovered all of these pottery shards. And this is when I knew that this whole uh, peninsula here was a burial ground, a necropolis, a city of the dead of olden times. So the Celtic ritual that of cremation was central to their beliefs of going to be with the gods. And they're the only cultures that used inverted urns with the ashes going into the ground, saying that this is the process of being with the gods. So that is just a unique signature. And I know that these pottery shards are covering the entire peninsula of Muxia. So this got me on a search that took me to some very strange lands. But before I do that, before we go there, let me share with you something else that I found earlier on in history. So, archaeology being my passion means that I'm always watching archaeology shows. And I was watching a very special archaeology show called The Time Team. Watching is not the proper word, rewatching. So I was rewatching this episode probably for the fifth or sixth time, and I was living here in Spain, in Galicia, and the professor Mick Aston from Time Team, the founding member of Time Team, pointed out that if there's quartz on a beach in Europe, he didn't say in Europe, but if you find quartz on a beach, it's like it is a not likely, it is an early Christian place of pilgrimage. Let me say that again. If you find quartz on a beach, doesn't matter what color, it is a place of pilgrimage, an early Christian place of pilgrimage. And that is coming from Professor Mick Aston. He didn't know why, and he didn't get a chance to study it, but he knew that to be true. Understanding early Christian means late, late pagan. Early Christian means late pagan because it wasn't just a hiya, a full cut around the world, and this started happening. So this tradition had to be going on before Christian times. So this got me absolutely, utterly excited because I know Mushia is the end of the Camino de Santiago. We'll go more into that in another episode because it's the end of La Ruta Jacobea. And La Ruta Jacobea, um, the La Ruta Jacobea is is very unique, and it is the predecessor of the Camino de Santiago. All right, it is the predecessor to the Camino de Santiago, and I knew that this beach right here, little tiny beach right here, called the Marina Beach, I believe, you kind of see them, okay, is filled with stones. And that never made sense to me because they're not working stones, they're not rubble that you would use for aggregate. They're too big to be aggregate. And you usually um, as a shipping um, as a shipping manner, you know, if you're shipping something, you just don't dump stuff in the beach. So for the longest time, I thought maybe it's some kind of ballast that it was being used. Hey Kim, thank you for your comments and Cipollone dash F2L or I. Again, thank you for your comment. Anybody that's watching live, please comment in the chat section because I'm reading them live. Kim Shock 44 says Siesta Key Beach is an all quartz sand beach, no other quartz beach in Florida. Kim, I've got to challenge you there on that one because most of your beaches in the Panhandle are quartz sand. So for 5 years, I lived on Pensacola Beach, which is a barrier island, a sand barrier island, and that beach, that barrier island, is made of white quartz sand. So as tradition has it, this white quartz came from the mountains of Georgia through the rivers, and it made these beautiful, wonderful white beaches and these beautiful, wonderful white beaches in the scorching hotness of a summer in the South, in the deep South, which is the panhandle of Florida, where the Gulf of Mexico gets so warm, it's bathtub warm. You get right in the beach of Gulf of Mexico, right there in Pensacola, and you feel like you're getting in a bathtub. There's no like, oh, this is cold. No, it's like, oh, this is nice. Yeah. And so, and the neat thing about that is the sand never gets hot because it is white quartz and it absorbs the heat and dissipates it. So that is the beautiful thing of quartz beaches. Here, I have very unique beaches here as well. These beaches are not made of sand for the most part. These beaches around here are made up of seashells that have worn down to basically powder almost, well, little tiny bits, not powder, but little tiny bits. So I have massive beaches around me that are made from ground up and used over time seashells. They're amazing beaches. They're very, very interesting. So back to the story of this stone, but different finding pieces of quartz on a beach. Yes, it is different finding quartz on a beach, and you can kind of see the shadow outline of all of these. So this was in the back of my head, and again, this is before I found the pottery shards. Okay, so this is the predecessor to this story. So when I saw that and saw Professor Aston say that, I turned the episode off. I ran down to this beach and I started looking to see if there were in fact some quartz stones here. And a vast variety of these stones are quartz. The really odd thing, though, is that they are variety of colors of quartz. So these quartzes are coming from all over. So I picked up the first piece. I was like, "Yay, Professor Aston! Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you for solving this puzzle for me." That's what archaeology is all about: solving puzzles. So I knew that this beach was an early Christian, at minimum, place of pilgrimage. And let me make this clear: there's pre-Christian and there's pre-Roman Catholic Church, because the Roman Catholic Church has changed a lot of stories for folks. So the tradition of the Roman Catholic Church is is that basically Saint Patrick brought Christianity to Ireland, and that's not true. The Christian tradition says Joseph of Arimathea, famous in the Bible for giving uh, Yeshua, Jesus, his place of burial, where they rolled the rock and did all that. Um, so he's in the Bible. He was obviously very close to Yeshua, to Jesus, and brought Christianity to the British Isles and ultimately to to the to the to the Irish. Understanding one thing about Saint Patrick, though, Patrick was Roman. Patrick was Roman. He wasn't Roman Catholic. He was Roman Christian. So there's a lot going on around there. So I picked up another piece just to make sure that it was quartz. And I was like, oh, yes, it's quartz. And then I picked up the third piece, which is this one. And yeah, it's always threes, isn't it? And then something happened. I put it in my hand, and it's got a rub place perfectly done for putting your thumb in there. And if you can see it, it's perfectly indented for a thumb. And this part right here is perfectly indented for a forefinger. Yeah, it's hard for me to do this camera reverse stuff. So this is what I was calling, because we call these worry stones. And I've been familiar with worry stones since the 70s. Okay. It was a super hippie thing to do, to have. And they're still available online right now. You can buy worry stones. They're made of glass, but they have an indentation for you to rub your worries into them. And the Celtic, the Irish tradition, an Irishman, speaking of the Irish, told me, yes, oh yes, these stones are very famous in Ireland. People would used to, in the evenings, put all of their worries and stresses into the stones and leave them on the table overnight for them to dissipate and go away. Because what happens is quartz absorbs heat and then dissipates it, same as the quartz beaches in Florida. So I got this one, and then I went and started testing all of the stones. And I didn't get to all the stones on the beach, but every quartz stone and other types of stones I picked up from that beach have the same have the same signature. Again, this is an archaeological signature, just like this is an archaeological signature. It's pottery shard. Okay, they have archaeological signatures, and of course, I have. And there's some small ones, and this one is one of my favorites because it has so many surfaces. It has this surface. It has this surface, which is perfectly indented for rubbing. It has this one that is also indented for rubbing. And then it has this backside here, which has also been rubbed. So this may be multi-generational. This is one person that just flipped it a lot, but it's smaller than the original. but most of the stones are basically about this size. But there's some very big ones too. Okay, so they had some big-handed people. I found a royal, what I call the royalty beach, because all the stones on this beach are made of semi-precious, some not semi-precious. Well, amethyst is semi-precious. So some with an amethyst stone with amethyst jewelry in it, which is absolutely beautiful. I'll be showing those one episode as well. But the first thing is, oh no, geez, Charles, all the stones on this beach, well, they were obviously done by the sea. They're obviously done by the sea. Well, first of all, this is a bay. Okay, this is a bay, and this has basically been protected beach since the beginning of it being a place um, of pilgrimage, because it's not on, as you see, the rough side of the sea is over here on the peninsula of Mushia, and then this beach has always been on the protected side of either the sea or the bay, so it's never had tides of any fashion. And I have this rock that I found on the beach, which is my gemstone, my baby. It has rough on one side and then perfectly smooth on the other. And here is the rub spot for this one. Okay. So it's rough on one side and smooth on the other. And as we know, the sea doesn't make roundy rocks. It's called river rock. The roundy rocks that we use in our gardens is called river rock. It's not sea rock. Sea doesn't have the same movement and mixture as the grinding river stone, which self grinds due to due to currents. So we have a whole different tradition. And this one, I've had it. This is also semi-precious because it has jade in it. It has jade, and I've had a geologist take a look at it. He says, "Yeah, yeah, that looks like jade to me." And we didn't have a chance to identify the stone or go too much into it, but yeah, he said this is interesting stone. The rough side, and then the smooth side has its run for it has an indentation for the forefinger, and then a rub side. Come here, camera, and then a rub side for rubbing. Okay, but this one, I'm using my right hand right now. This one works, but if you put it in your left hand, it fits and works perfectly. I've had at least 17 lefties try this out and say, yes, 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 this is a left handed person's rub. This feels right and correct in the left hand. And for me, it does. And for them, it does. For all of us, it does. And so, yeah, on the right, it works, but doesn't feel right. You put it in the left, and it feels perfect. And every lefty goes, really? I existed back then. I was like, yep. So, in the end, these two go together. Now, I don't have anything written in writing because the Celts were not uh, well documenting people, okay, that we know of. You have to understand that a lot of history books were burned into ash. And we're going to get into that as well because it's the story of Latin America. Part of the story, a big part of the story of Latin America is rewriting the history books. So the assumption that I'm making is that the person passed away. They did the ceremony near the place of burial, of cremation, and then they would put the jar upside down on a very holy place, which Mushia is a very holy place. And we're going to get into that in several episodes as well. But for the most important thing that you can see is that this peninsula points directly north. And directly north from here is Great Britain, the Celts of Great Britain, and we've done a DNA study, and I have the magazine report uh, that the Celts came from Spain, and we'll be talking about that as well. So the urn was put upside down and weathered over time, and the ashes would go into the mountain and go be with gods. And then the stone was taken either by the priest or relative and placed on the beach. Very important that it was placed on the beach, and that's why these stones are there. Quartz stones don't migrate naturally. That's not the thing that a quartz stone does. It has to be brought by another person to that location, one means or another. And thanks to Professor McAston, we know that these were brought by pilgrims. Someone coming from another place to this place for a holy, sacred ritual reason. So my supposition is saying that when the person passed away, they took their worry stones and left it at the sacred site as well on the beach because the gods were above water as well as below water. So this person's soul stone, this is what I call it now, the soul stone, the worry stone, would go underwater to be with the gods and on high tide, and then on low tide, it would be in the air with the sun god. So it would be doing this and this in perpetuity. Now, these are all, I'm going to be assuming, Celtic stones, okay? I'm assuming that they're Celtic. But something interesting happened when I was studying the pottery shards, and that is this. These red pottery shards, which bear the same signature as the Celtic ones, the the glaze on the inside is perfectly well done, and the glaze on the outside is being weather worn. I have one, two, three examples of what we call Samian ware. Red clay with red glazing is a signature for a specific type of pottery. And it goes by the term Samian ware in archaeological circles. And Samian ware was made by the Romans. These came from Italy, or the materials were brought here to Spain so that they could do this Samian ware. Okay? But this is Roman. It came in with the Romans and it finished with the Romans. When the Romans went, so did Samian ware in history. So we have the Romans being here. Whether the Romans were practicing the same ritual or not, we don't know. We don't know. Were Celts buying Roman pottery, which was very fine and very lucrative and expensive back then, to do the ritual? Possibly. Absolutely impossibly. So this is where we have the intersection of the Romans with the Celts here in Murcia, Spain. And that has so much to do with the story of Latin America. And that's the intersection of the Romans and the Celts here. So Murcia has a very, very tight story, tight history, a very long archaeological history, but a very tight one. I give tours here, and they usually last about 2.5 hours. because that's all the human being can take in as far as a tour goes. I could give a 6 to 8 hour tour easily of the small peninsula, of the archaeology, of the history that goes far back before Romans to the Celts. So this is a very, very, very interesting journey you're going to be on, and we're going to pick it back up tomorrow, um, going back and figuring out the Roman names of the city of the area. We're going to get into the cartography, the maps tomorrow. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting journey, a fun journey. And to get back to the beginning of the journey, here are our Celtic rituals, just so that we can know that I'm true to um, what I say we're going to be talking about today. So here we are, the worry stone or the soul stone and the burial urn. Very sacred, very important, and very, very Celtic. All right. Thank you all so much. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye. And be good. Thank you, Kim and Cipolla. Cipollina -F21 or 2I or 2L.